All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Messari's Unqualified Opinions. I'm Ryan Selkis at 2-Bit Idiot. This is a double feature, and I'm excited to bring another phenomenal guest to today's program, talking about Colin, Head of Marketing at Zilliqa, a smart contract platform based in Singapore. Singapore, right? It's late
That's
here.
right.
It's early there, but you been trying to get this on the books for a couple of weeks, so appreciate your patience here. Zilliqa has been an early supporter and collaborator with Messari since way back in 2018. We're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to talk about the platform itself, some of the key milestones and initiatives and community investments that are underway. And most importantly, you might be wondering why this is part of a double feature with a privacy coin. Well, one thing that we wanted to do was take a look at some of the top performing projects and projects that were continuing to operate maybe a little bit under the radar in the middle tier of the crypto market. So we talked to Ruben, the first part of this conversation, from Zcoin, one of the largest privacy coins, but still fifth largest on the depth chart. And now excited to have a similar conversation with Colin about maybe some of the challenges of building community and ultimately finding a niche, carving out a niche in the smart contract realm as well. So Colin, before we do that, why don't we start off by just hearing a little bit more about your origin story. What made you first get hooked into crypto, and how did you come to Zilliqa and make the leap from a non-crypto career into the Wild West, or Wild East in your case, of the crypto markets, and in particular the smart contract markets?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Very happy to be on the podcast with you. And I'd like to just think about where I started. And it was actually in the dot-com era. So really back in the 90s, we started thinking about how to use digital currency even then. And it never really quite took off. So we went through the dot-com and I moved into mobile. And mobile was very transactional, but the operators were doing the billing. So we got the money secondhand. And when I first heard about Bitcoin around about 2012, someone said, hey, you know what? You can actually buy coffee with this digital currency, and it's completely independent, and it works. So I thought, well, that's interesting enough. And I stumbled into an exhibition, and there was an ATM machine there on one of the stands. And the guy said, hey, do you want to buy Bitcoin? And I thought, okay. And I took $50. I stuck it in the ATM machine, outspat a piece of paper with a QR code on it. He said, there you go. And then I had to do a bit of research to find out what I could do with it. And from 2013 till date, I have been researching a lot, both formally and informally, and obviously buying coins and seeing what I could do with them, and thinking what impact Bitcoin, for example, and peer-to-peer currency has on humanity. So as an entrepreneur, I'm very interested in the business side of how this can actually work in everybody's hands day to day. So yeah, I got in 2013, good time for sure. That little piece of paper multiplied 6 times, I think, the money in that ATM machine, and that triggered obviously some excitement as well. So now I think it is a world-changing, humanity-changing, groundbreaking technology, and I'm a big evangelist, of course.
When did you come to Zilliqa?
Zilliqa, my first experience was actually when they did a sort of mini launch in Singapore. There was obviously a meetup group, an Ethereum meetup group, which had regular pitches. And one of the original founders, Jin Shu, was on stage talking about sharding. Just before I left for the UK, I spent a year in the UK. So 2017, I saw some written information. 2018, the actual pitch that I saw live, and it was amazing. I was just blown away with the transactions per second. Well, the
Um,
job itself, sorry, the job itself was I was headhunted, so I was sought out in Singapore for this role, and as I was a fan of the blockchain, I didn't have to think twice about going for it.
Zilliqa was one of the early ERC20s to ultimately migrate over to its own dedicated blockchain. You mentioned the focus has been on developing sharding and implementing that new technology well before people could expect to see it in Ethereum 2.0. This is a luxury that you have as a slightly smaller platform and project to be able to push the envelope on some of these developments. Can you walk through a little bit more around that transition and what it meant to leave the Ethereum ecosystem in some respects, even though you're still, collaborative and able, I'm sure, to attract similar, ecosystem participants for Zilliqa. The migration away from the ERC20 to your own dedicated blockchain does, in some respects, put a partition between this project and the folks that are otherwise looking to build on Ethereum or kind of leverage a lot of the tools that are already available. How do you get all the benefits out of Zilliqa that you want to in your own dedicated blockchain without losing all the community benefits, or at least very quickly replicating those community benefits so that there isn't a pretty steep fall off in support and tools that are compatible with your blockchain and just generally community sentiment?
Yeah, so obviously we have a dedication to our own smart contract language, Zilla, and that is
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the most powerful attributes of the Zilliqa blockchain, the ability to write almost in natural language business processes, and it's safe by design. So it has logic, which is better than almost any other smart contract language I've seen. I think our chief science officer yesterday posted about Ethereum finally being able to separate immutable and mutable properties in a smart contract. Zilliqa is way ahead of many blockchains right now, and so we've set our stall out, and we've invited the developer community to come to our platform with a number of different projects. We have something called Zilhive specifically, which invests in really good commercial ideas for startups and developers who want to create things on the Zilliqa blockchain. We also have a community effort called Zillacracy, which opens up to anyone who has an idea, and then a community will form around that and build a project. So our outreach to the developer community is intense and growing. We have developer evangelists who will go out to many events and when they come back, and of course do online webinars and workshops to help build a bigger developer base. And we've also worked with people like Ivan on Tech to do Zilliqa and Scylla programming courses. And he's got a huge following. And there's been a massive increase in interest from the developer community for Scylla and for the Zilliqa blockchain. So there's been a significant investment, financial and in human terms, to drive the developer community to help understand the benefits of the Zilliqa blockchain.
Mm-hmm. And what were when you came in, this was right after the migration, correct?
The token swap, yes.
Yep.
Just at that time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of capital available to kind of reinvest in the ecosystem, smooth out some of the growing pains to move in your own blockchain. What has been your role in deploying funds or catalyzing the rest of the ecosystem with a grants program, investment program, or is that a separately dedicated function on the Zilliqa team? How do you think about your relationship on the marketing side as community liaison?
Yeah, it's a very important bridge. We have a growth team specifically there to build the ecosystem, and people in specific roles within that team to grow different parts of that ecosystem. We have ecosystem VP, we have developer evangelist, we have growth analysts, and a lot of people working on the strategic push into the industry and into the communities to help build that part of the business. From a marketing point of view, what we need to do is report back on all of that activity. There is a massive amount of activity going on at Zilliqa. It's almost hard to keep up, and we are constantly issuing media announcements, placements, updates, videos, tweets. We're on Twitter a lot, updating the community on what we're doing. And I think over engagement is the answer. I think over communication is the answer. And I really want to get as much information out, even if it's almost just being created internally. We want to get that information out that we're working on something new or different or interesting, and we want the community to engage and give us feedback. So the staking proposal, for example, is a huge exercise in trying to get feedback from the community on what they feel is the best way to deploy it. And we've got some amazing feedback. There are some brilliant minds out there, and people are always happy to contribute. So from a marketing point of view, we are pushing every channel we can, but also doing a lot of social listening. So it's a two-way engagement with the community. But Zilliqa has such a huge amount of activity going on. I'm not short of ammunition to fire into the marketplace, which can get noisy at times, but we are constant and relentless in our messaging, I think.
How do you think about keeping a narrow focus or trying to carve out a niche on the Zilliqa platform? Yes, a lot of the early work was around sharding and having this, highly scalable blockchain. But the question that I always have for projects that don't have the network effect of Ethereum is that enough, right? Does it matter if you're faster, if all the infrastructure and the majority of mind share sits at the largest asset, the largest couple of smart contract platforms? And with Zilliqa, you do have a couple of different types of applications that have gotten some traction. You've got some DeFi initiatives where you're working with the Monetary Authority of Singapore. You, I believe, are still working with the Unstoppable Domains guys, the folks that actually just had a pretty meaningful integration with Opera last week, the top 5 web browser to incorporate .crypto domains. What, as you think about maybe the key themes of 2020, to me, it's stable coins, kind of censor-resistant web. So, the kind of the Web3 thesis really playing out and accelerating in importance, given what we're seeing in a macro level right now. And then there's the DeFi space, which has exploded and maybe come back down to earth marginally, but with everything that's going on with the coronavirus, just because it seems more experimental and less hard than some of the other areas of crypto development. But those are 3 wildly different things, and with a subscale ecosystem compared to the giants in the realm. Do you have to pick, or can you focus on enterprise, focus on stable coins, DeFi, and kind of take an all of the above approach, like you'd see from Ethereum?
Yeah, I think we are picking for sure. We're looking at open finance or OpFi as a way forward. We also, of course, are creating a DeFi exchange with a partner called Switchio. Mm-hmm. We have launched with Xpers, our partner in Singapore, the first effectively regulated stablecoin, XSGD, as part of the StraitsX project, which is a very ambitious project to turn stablecoins from Southeast Asia into a really solid and usable property for things like remittance. Remittance is a critical part of the way of life in Southeast Asia. It's actually going to be a $270 billion business in the next 5 years. And Western Union and folks like that have been taking a big cut for many years. And we have the option now with XSGD to build remittance with countries like Indonesia and just take a very small fraction of the exchange to keep the network admin costs obviously covered. And that helps financial inclusion across many hundreds of millions of people. And we've seen bigger projects like Libra approach the same challenge, but I think we are going really country to country and group to group in a very specific way, which is practical and will scale very quickly.
Mm-hmm. If you rank order the applications right now, what are the kind of largest third parties that are building on Zilliqa, and are they focusing exclusively on Zilliqa? Are there certain applications that are more successfully deployed there, where you're seeing any developers specifically choose you either through kind of a multi-platform evaluation process? And if you could just kind of elaborate on some of the things that those killer apps teams are looking for right now.
Yeah, so big picture, the transactional volume on Zilliqa is quite high. If you look at Flipside Crypto's analysis as well, they can give us good comparatives against other blockchains. So I think our usage is pretty high even today, and companies like Unstoppable Domains have driven a lot of traffic very early, which is a great proof point for us. Now moving into these larger partnerships with companies like Xverse and Switcheo, we have really achieved sort of enterprise level status where we can service really important projects at a high level and guarantee the security of the transaction. The project we've worked on with HG Exchange now is a securities token offering platform, effectively running fractional ownership of the US share market. So HG Exchange is working in the Monetary Authority of Singapore sandbox, and they are building out an exchange whereby their members can purchase shares in a fractional way from, for example, the US stock market, or even locally some of our bigger players. And I think that that's another great way of showing how adaptable the platform is, but how focused it is on tokenization and that kind of logic behind where the financial community is going to go in future. So I think the XG Exchange project is going to come out here in Q2. It's going to be, again, the first regulated fractional ownership platform, we think, anywhere, and it enables the community to buy and resell parts of shares from other markets. So this is where we see the future of transactions, of value exchange, and I think it's probably one of the most exciting things we're working on. In terms of enterprise blockchain activity, there are now starting to appear quite a lot of RFPs. So we will always enter into the RFP wherever we see ourselves as offering a USP or a distinct value to enterprise partners for the next big blockchain implementation. So my focus, of course, is going to be enterprise, because I see the money is there. It's a more traditional software sale in a way, but with all the excitement of the blockchain attributes. So we're in for a few RFPs as well.
How does that split work out between entities? Because the Zilliqa token is similar to Ether in that it's used to pay gas fees, and is kind of the native currency of your blockchain. Is this like a Red Hat model? Is this just a traditional, software as a service business sitting alongside of these tokens? Are you using the tokens as incentives during these RFPs? Where does that factor in to some of the enterprise client bids that you're putting in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've been around for a while, so we know about Red Hat and how to roll out open source tech into a business environment. And I think that that's not a bad model to follow. There's obviously revenue to be made from professional services, from customization, from actively creating products that fit a specific business or corporate RFP. So that is quite an important line for us, business model going forward. But also then you're equally driving transaction fees and taking a small margin on that activity. So anything that drives action into the network, that drives gas fees is good for us as well, good for the miners.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the miners. So you're gradually switching over to a proof of stake mechanism. Well, first off, how did you start for the underlying staking mechanics? Because you had a cold start problem when you were going through the token swap from ERC20 to your own native blockchain, and then there was a recent consensus change that you initiated just in the last couple of months.
Well, I think just overall, the logic has always been to have this combination of proof of work and practical Byzantine fault tolerance as well. So we have split the logic into a very small component of mining to approve nodes, and then the nodes can process going forward the transactions. So the mining base is quite different from a Bitcoin mining, for example. So it only has to do a certain amount of mining in a 2 or 3 hour period to approve a block. We run 600 nodes per shard, and it's probably the most secure way of doing this kind of blockchain management. The consensus mechanism isn't really affected, I think, by any part of the issues that we had previously in the cold start, as you call it. So I think that as a platform, I mean, obviously we've gone up to 2,828 transactions per second on the test net. I think we're quite sure that it can process very quickly and securely anything that we need to do in future. And we have about 1,400 nodes which are doing the mining at the moment. And of course, we're going to add more seed nodes with the staking proposition. So the staking proposition has got a lot of excitement recently, and we're looking forward to the partnerships that we'll make with the nodes. And obviously, the more nodes we add, the more transactions we can process.
What do you think ultimately gets a project like Zilliqa into the top 20 in terms of developer activity, in terms of market cap, and what are some of the pitfalls, like and when if ever would there be a critical lower bound that you would worry about in terms of just project acceptance, holders, the speed at which you can rise and fall from this middle tier is fairly significant. It doesn't seem though that there's been that much turnover recently. It seems like you've kind of got these very clearly defined buckets in the top 20. You know who the major players are. The 2017 crop that have already faded away and more or less gone under. There's just these zombie chains. They're just floating around, the 300,000 range, and it doesn't really matter because people are just trading them a few dollars at a time on some of the more suspect exchanges worldwide. At the same time, everybody in that kind of middle tier is working feverishly on expanding their networks, actually finding some killer applications, and maybe it's just actually executing on some of these partnerships. But if you had to distill it down for both your team and for others that are in this situation, what ultimately moves the needle and what keeps things moving forward?
Well, I think there's again two areas: enterprise adoption where there are already masses of transactions taking place, and we swap them over to the blockchain. This gives us an instant volumetric increase. So finding partners that are likely to scale their business, which is a day-to-day, recurring, ongoing thing, is really important. So working on those types of projects. My feeling is that the open finance activity and the stable coins will grow significantly. The project is very ambitious in terms of onboarding partners, wallets, enabling the free flow of that currency. So that will increase and amplify over time. My own personal interest is mass adoption, and I often think that it does come top down rather than bottom up. So if you can find partners who can switch people over to huge usage, whether they are entertainment companies looking to find different ways to receive payment and cut out the middlemen, or other ways of driving retail action, I think it also gets the headlines. So if you partner with a large brand and you help them acquire and onboard subscribers, for example, and they use cryptocurrency to pay, then you've got almost the perfect storm in our world. So that's my real interest, personal interest, and operational interest is to onboard some very large players who drive recurring, regular, and significant numbers of transactions.
That's very often going to be a nice to have, though, especially in this environment. Have you seen, given everything that's happening with the coronavirus, a slowdown in enterprise pilots or serious engagements to switch over any of their internal processes to something that's more experimental? Because you could talk about the throughput results that you have on the test net all you want, but for the larger entities, they're going to want to see some trial by fire, and now might be the time that they're getting much less risk averse, much more risk averse than they were even at the beginning of the year. Have you had conversations stall? Where is the mindset of some of the prospects that you've spoken with about various partnerships over the course of the last couple of quarters?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we're quite open and transparent in our communication to the community. The HC Exchange, looking at launching end of Q1, then if you look at the global macro stock market, it was just too volatile. It was really difficult to think that that would be a great time to launch that platform. So there was a recognition, I think, from all parties that it would be good to wait a while, let things settle down, and then come back when the time is right. So that does, of course, whether it was COVID-19 or any other economic activity by governments flooding the market with fiat, that it really helped perhaps change our view on how to and when to launch, not just launch for the sake of launching. But we haven't seen a slowdown in requests for information, for interest, or how to apply the blockchain to businesses. I don't think I've seen a busier bunch of people. We have nearly 30 staff. I don't think I've seen a busier bunch of people working on multiple projects simultaneously in any of my other eras, either the internet era or mobile era. So I think the blockchain era is 10 times that, maybe 100 times that. I don't foresee any real change in enterprise looking to adopt a blockchain strategy in any and all part of their business in the next 1 to 2 years. And actually now is a really good time to do it when everyone is drill down focused internal, making sure everything works really well rather than distracted by other things that may be going on. So it may be counterintuitive, but I think people are really zeroing in on their core business, how to improve it, how to cut out extraneous costs, and how to make transactions work much more cheaply. So it's probably a good time.
Colin, where can people find you and get more involved with the project and start playing around with some of your libraries?
Well, we have our website, zilliqa.com. So zilliqa.com. And you'll see a lot of options there, obviously our entire history, and a way to apply to the ZilHive project. If you have an idea or you have a business that you want to try out on the Zilliqa blockchain. I'm on Twitter quite a lot, so @Colin Miles. all one word. And yeah, we have a huge number of Telegram groups. Telegram is probably the most exciting social media part of our community. It's really active and engaging, and you get a lot in real time from people there. So it's a fantastic buzz. It's an amazing industry, and I feel like I'm 26 again.
Excellent. Well, definitely appreciate having you on, and love the paraphernalia in the background. Long live Kobe. For those of you who are tuning in either on YouTube or through your favorite podcast player, thank you for that, and please support our sponsors. Until next time, Colin will have you on again soon. Until next time, everybody else, we're here Tuesdays and Thursdays with new podcast episodes, twice a week, every week. And I will look forward to seeing you soon. In 2 days, 4 days, depending on exactly when it is you're catching this. Looking forward to the next one. It's late here in the Citadel, as you can tell, but appreciate Colin you joining from Singapore. And with any luck, we'll be able to grab a beer soon, in person, not just through Zoom.
Would love that. Cheers.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Peace.